this video, I will be giving an in-depth review of the BP Pulse 150 kilowatt rapid chargers. However, please use these time references if you want to spin on to my individual demos of how to use the charger with the different payment options, or to my general discussion afterwards. Good morning, this is the PlugSeeker. Welcome to another episode. Now, in today's episode, I'm going to be taking a look at one of the BP Pulse 150 kilowatt rapid chargers. Now, for those that weren't aware, BP Pulse is the new rebranded name for what was the BP Polar network, or otherwise known as the BP Chargemaster network. Those are all been rebranded and all their machines now say BP Pulse. And they've also changed the RFID card covers, and also the apps have been re-released with the new BP Pulse. Now, the BP network has been one of the networks to bring out the next generation of rapid chargers. Now, up until the last couple of years, the fastest way you could charge an electric car was with a 50 kilowatt rapid charger. Now, to put that into some sort of perspective, a normal 3-pin household plug used as a charger with a granny cable would get up to about 3 kilowatts. A standalone post, you might see at a supermarket, those would get up to about 7 kilowatts. But up until about a couple of years ago, the fastest rapid charger you could get was a 50 kilowatt charger. Now, several companies, including BP Pulse, have been bringing out chargers that are a lot faster. And examples of some networks which are bringing out these faster chargers would be InstaVolt, Shell, and Ionity, for example, as well as BP Pulse. But today I'm going to be looking at a BP Pulse 150 kilowatt rapid charger. Now, these, as I say, have started springing up over the last couple of years, and most of them are now based at the BP forecourts, ironically next to all the petrol pumps. Now, these new BP Pulse chargers are quite a bit different from the standard BP Pulse rapid chargers which we've used in the past. This is what the standard BP Pulse rapid chargers look like, and this is what the new BP 150 kilowatt rapid chargers look like. As you can see, the older posts here are a triple-headed post, whereas these ones only have the CHADEMO and the CCS. So what's missing is they do not have a Type 2 Menekes cable with a 43 kilowatt AC. Which means that, unfortunately, the older Renault Zoe owners will not be able to use the new posts. So this BP 150 kilowatt is around the corner from me, and here is the location. This particular location in Godstone Road in Surrey was actually one of the first to be brought out around the country. It's actually at quite a good location. It's a BP garage, and it also has a Marks and Spencer shop with all you could possibly need to eat and drink, and some nice coffees as well. So as I said, there are two rapid charging cables on this BP Pulse Ultra Charger, as we'll call it. The CHADEMO plug, which looks like this, is primarily for Nissan Leafs, and will also fit the Nissan ENV200 vans. And there are the occasional Kia e-Souls from the early generation which have CHADEMOs, although those are pretty rare. The CHADEMO will charge at a maximum of 100 kilowatts, so that's roughly double a standard rapid charger. The other charger on this BP Pulse Ultra Charger is one of these, which is a CCS combo plug, and this will charge at a maximum of 175 kilowatts, so that's quite impressive. However, it is important to note that to get this sort of really fast speed, you must have a electric car that is capable of taking that sort of charge. And that tends to be the newer generation of electric cars over the last, let's say, 2 or 3 years or so, leaving aside, obviously, the Tesla, which can manage much faster charging speeds. Therefore, if you use an older electric car, such as this Nissan Leaf, which is a 30 kilowatt Nissan Leaf Ascenta, this can only take a maximum of 50 kilowatts. The purpose of today's video really is just to demonstrate the use of this BP Ultra charger, and I'll be using it to charge my Mark 1 30 kilowatt Nissan Leaf. So obviously I am not going to get 100 kilowatts. The maximum I could possibly get with this car would be 50 kilowatts. However, it will be interesting to see how close it comes to 50 kilowatts and if it's any faster than when I've charged on a 50 kilowatt charger. And I'm going to also set up Leaf Spy to monitor the charging speed, and we'll have a look at the end how quickly it charged. There are 3 ways to charge with this BP Ultra charger. Firstly, if you are a BP Pulse subscription member, which is at the moment £7.80 a month, you can charge in 2 ways, either using your RFID card, which looks like this, or you can register on the BP Pulse app and sign in as a subscription member, and you can use the app to activate the charger. To be honest, if you are a BP Pulse member, I think you're usually going to keep your BP Pulse RFID card in the car, usually along with a selection of other RFID cards for other networks. Most people are going to do that, makes sense. So personally, I wouldn't use the app really unless I had lost the card or forgotten it or left it at home, that sort of thing. However, if you are not a subscription member and you just want to pay as you go, perhaps someone who doesn't use the public network very often, then you can do so using a debit card contactlessly. The other way, if you want to pay as you go, is again, you can use the app. Now, to use the app, you would have to first download the app, register again with an email address, and you would have to add a debit or credit card and make a deposit, at least of £5. I have to say, and regular viewers will know, I am really not a fan of using apps to activate chargers. There are just too many things that can go wrong. Personally, I much prefer to use either an RFID card or a debit credit card. And I think it is important that all new chargers should be able to do either of those 2 things. Anyway, so I will try to activate the charger, firstly using my RFID card, secondly using a debit card, and finally I'll have a go trying to use the app, and we'll see how I get on. So without further ado, let's go and have a look at the charger. These 150 kilowatt chargers look very different from the Pulse 50 kilowatt chargers. The most noticeable thing first is that there are only 2 tethered chargers, as opposed to the 3 tethered chargers you see on the 50 kilowatt chargers. On the left you have the CCS combo charger, and on the right you have the CHADEMO charger. In between the 2 chargers there is a large grey area split into 2 sections. These are for making contactless payments. The bottom area shown here is for touching the BP Pulse membership cards. Above this there is a white rectangular pad with a digital readout that says terminal ready. This is actually a second contactless pad, and it is where you make pay-as-you-go payments by debit cards, etc. And finally, at the top left hand corner you have a touchpad, which is the control panel for the charger. When you touch the screen, it'll ask you to select which of the 2 rapid chargers you want, either CCS or CHADEMO. As you can see, the CCS has a maximum charge speed of 175 kilowatts, whereas the CHADEMO has a maximum speed of 100 kilowatts. In this case, I am charging a Nissan Leaf, so I will select the second option for CHADEMO. In the next screen, it will ask you to connect the charger to your car. If you are planning to charge using the Pulse membership card or with a contactless payment such as a debit card, you should now connect your car at this point. However, if you intend to start the charge using the app, do not connect the car at this point, as I have found that the app then seems to feel that the charger is in use and will not let you connect. I will come back to how to use the app for charging at a later point in this video. So first I'm going to show you how to charge using a Pulse RFID membership card. So the first thing we'll do from this screen is to plug in our charger. In this case, the CHADEMO charger to my Nissan Leaf. The CHADEMO is the large blue cable on the right, and you press the button in to release it and then just pull out of the holster. And on the Nissan Leaf, you open the CHADEMO, which is the larger port on the left, and the cable goes in like this, and it should click when it's in place. The screen will now change to show that the connection is confirmed. Now click on the green start button in the right hand corner. In the next screen you'll see three options. Click on the RFID card option at the bottom. Now take out your Pulse RFID card or tag and place it on the reader at the bottom as shown. You will hear a beep and then the screen will say that it's verifying your card. You'll see this screen come up as the charger begins to connect to the car. You will hear the fan start up on the charger and the Nissan Leaf will make a beep as the charger connects. And finally, once the charger is connected, you'll see this ongoing charging status screen. This screen shows you what percentage your battery is up to, how long you've been charging, and how many kilowatt hours of power have been delivered so far. And that's all there really is to it. So let's now assume that we've charged up as far as we want and we're ready to go. So the next thing you do is press the stop button on the bottom right hand corner. You'll then see this prompt asking you to touch your Pulse membership card on the RFID reader as you did before. You'll then see this screen as the charger verifies your RFID card and stops the charge. And then finally there is a summary screen showing your final percentage, how long you were charging and how much energy was delivered. And then finally it should return to the start menu. And finally push down on the button and pull firmly to remove the CHADEMO cable, and don't forget to close the charging flap on your car. And lastly, put the dust cap on the plug and replace it in the charger. So now I'm going to show you how to repeat the process, except this time using a contactless payment such as a debit or credit card. So as before, from the startup screen, select the charger type you require, either CCS or CHADEMO, and then connect the charger to the car as we did before. And once connected, press the start button in the bottom right corner. This time, from the three options, select card payment at the top left and have your debit card or other contactless payment ready. Then click the green pay button in the bottom right hand corner. You'll then see this screen come up telling you to put your contactless payment in front of the payment terminal. Now take your contactless payment and put it over the contactless payment terminal at the top. Do not put it over the lower bottom contactless pad, as this will not work. As before, you'll see a verifying screen appear, shortly followed by a screen saying that it is connecting to the charger. You will hear the charger starting up as before, and then you will see the charging screen. The process when you wish to stop your charge is actually quite simple. You simply press the red stop button in the bottom right hand corner. And once the charge is stopped, you will see a summary of your charging session as before, and after this it will revert back to the startup screen. So finally, I'm going to show you how to activate one of these rapid chargers using the BP Pulse app. As the app opens, click on the map icon in the bottom left hand corner, zoom in and click on the flag which represents the charger which you want to use. Check the location and the ID number correspond to the charger you're standing at. And if the details match, click on the box at the bottom of the screen. It will then take you to the second screen, where it will again ask you to confirm the details of the charger, and also shows you the cost of the charge will be 27p per kilowatt hour. Click on the tab that says use this pulse point. It'll then take you to this screen, once again asking you to confirm that this is the correct charging code for this charger. Press continue, and on the next screen it'll ask you to select which of the two rapid chargers you want. In this case we need CHADEMO for my Nissan Leaf, and therefore you select socket 2. This will then take you to the final confirmation screen. At this point you should now plug in the rapid charger to your car. Finally, once you have plugged in your car, press Start Charge at the bottom of the screen. You will then see the app show that it is connecting, and on the screen of the charger it should say verifying. It will then show that it is connecting to the charger, and then finally, as before, it will come up with the charging status screen. The app will continue to show how long you've been charging, and when you are ready to stop charging, you can only do this via the app. The stop button on the machine will not work, but you have to stop it by pressing the red stop charge on the bottom of the app screen. The app will then say it is disconnecting, and on the screen on the charger you will see a summary of your charging session. Finally, the app will confirm the end of your charging session, and the charger will revert back to the starting screen. And that concludes how to charge on a BP 150 kilowatt charger using an RFID, debit card or an app. So that concludes my test of the 150 kilowatt BP Pulse rapid charger. So I'll start with ease of use. So as you saw from the video, the first test I did was using the membership BP Pulse RFID card. And as I said before, this is for people who are members of the BP Pulse subscription service, which at present I believe is £7.80 a month. And I'll put the details here of how much that costs for BP Pulse members. So ease of use, using the BP Pulse card, I had no problems whatsoever, and it started first time. So well done there. So that I think was probably the easiest way to use the BP Pulse charger. The second way in which I attempted to use the charger was using a simple debit card. Now, one mistake I made here for a while is I was accidentally touching it to the same place as the RFID. If you do that, you'll get this error message and it will not start. So to start, you must, once you press pay, make sure you put the debit card over the top payment reader, and that is the one that looks like this. Now, once I started doing that correctly, I was able to start it pretty much every time. So again, that was pretty straightforward. But I think one point I would like to point out to BP Pulse here is that you really must make sure you differentiate very clearly between the two different contactless areas. So just to reiterate once again, if you are using this BP membership card, you must touch it to this contactless pad. If you are using a debit card or other contactless payment, you must touch it to this contactless area. And so this brings me to the third way in which I tested the charger, which is using the app. I did test the app using both a account which I set up using my BP Pulse subscription membership, and I also set up a new account as a pay-as-you-go user just to test it out, adding in a debit card to it, and I tested it with that as well. Now, as I've said before, I'm not a big fan of apps, and I have to say I did have one or two problems using the app. Eventually, I would like to say I was able to start the charger using both a pay-as-you-go and a subscription login on the app, so I could get them to work. But there were a few problems, and some of the problems I have managed to figure out why. Now, one thing to remember, when you're using the app, don't plug in the car at the beginning. If you plug in the charger into the car before you start, when you go to look at the location, it'll come up as in use, and you'll see this. And you will not be able to connect using the app. So do not plug in the car at first. Wait until you come to this screen in the process, and then plug in the charger into the car. Okay? If you do that, it'll work fine. Now, a second problem I have with the Pulse app is it has an unfortunate habit of crashing from time to time. And the time that it tends to do this most, I found, was at this screen. Now, this is the screen where the charging app is connecting to the charger. And it should go from this screen, once it connects, to this screen, which is the charge in progress screen. Now, the charge in progress screen is the one which has the red bit which says you can stop the charge. So the problem I had from time to time was that it would get stuck at the connecting now screen. And although often the charger would start and the charge on the charger would show it was in progress and working, unfortunately it would stay in that screen. And that's a problem, because if you start a charge with the app, you cannot stop it by any other means apart from with the app. If you press the stop button on the charging screen on the charger itself, it will simply give you this error message and tell you to stop it with the phone. And you may have noticed when you look at the charger that there is apparently no emergency stop button. Now, I know that emergency stop buttons are often abused and should only be used in emergencies, as the name suggests, but it does appear that this one doesn't have one. And I don't know whether that's important or not. But what it does mean is that once you have connected your car and it charges in progress, having been started with the app, there is no way to disconnect your car if you have problems using the app. The only way you can do it then is to ring the helpline. And on one occasion, I was charging for 20 minutes and it got stuck in this manner, and I was waiting on the helpline for another 34 minutes. So I was more than double my time spent waiting on the customer services line. Now, first I thought the reason for this crashing was because on the first time I minimized and I was using something else on the phone, and when I went back to the app, then it was frozen. So I thought, okay, maybe it doesn't like being minimized. But then on subsequent occasions, it happened even when it wasn't minimized. So this does appear to be a bit of a problem with the app, and I hope it's something maybe Pulse can look into. So it does raise the point that if you were to be activating the phone with your app, and God forbid you were to run out of power on your phone and didn't have a charger, you would be in the situation where you would not be able to stop the charge and you wouldn't be able to ring the helpline. You would be stuck finding somebody else's phone or trying to find a landline to ring the helpline. Perhaps the BP garage might let you use their line, I don't know. So that is something to bear in mind when you're using the app. And one final point I would say is there are too many steps. If you look here, between clicking on the location and starting the charge, there are 5 steps and multiple screens where it asks you to confirm the charger. I really think this can be simplified down to just maybe 1 or 2 steps. Now, this is not the only network app by any means that has this problem. I've mentioned before the Ecotricity app has even more steps, but I think this can be improved upon. So in conclusion, this app was okay, but it was definitely glitchy and there is definitely room for improvement. That being said, this is a new app and hopefully it will go through new versions and updates over time, and perhaps some of these problems will be ironed out in further releases. So in summary, in terms of ease of use, there are ways that you can go wrong if you don't know what you're doing, and I certainly fell into some of those pitfalls. However, hopefully if you use this video, you shouldn't come to any problems, and if you follow the instructions in the right order, in the right way, then it works pretty well. I have to say, using the RFID and the debit cards were by far the easiest way of using it rather than the app. Now, there's another point I'd like to touch upon. As I said before, I did have to ring the helpline once or twice to disengage when I used the app. And I've got to say, BP Pulse, the waiting times to get to an answer on your helpline really aren't good enough. Okay, at times I had to wait up to half an hour to get through. And this is not an isolated incident. I have a BP Pulse 7 kilowatt charger at work, which also can be activated using the app. And occasionally, if I've left my card at home, I've had to use the app to do this. And I have had to occasionally, because of problems of the app, I've also had to ring the helpline. And it is my experience that the helpline can take anything from 5 minutes to up to 40 minutes to get an answer. And that just isn't good enough. BP Pulse, please, I really would ask that you audit the length of your calls if you don't already, and find how long it takes from dialing the number to getting through to an operator. You have to click through several options, and then there is a long wait listening to what becomes infuriating lift music, waiting for someone to answer. It really needs to be a lot better. So please do take note, Pulse. So now I'd like to come to charging speed. Now, during this test, I was using a 30 kilowatt Mark I Nissan Leaf Ascenter, and the maximum charge this can ever really manage theoretically is 50 kilowatts. So in no way was this a test of the maximum charge that this charger is capable of, as it is listed as managing up to 100 kilowatts on the CHADEMO side, and up to 175 kilowatts on the CCS side. However, as you can see, using this speeded up charging profile, which I downloaded using LeafSpy, the charging speed was actually surprisingly good. Now, I did start with an extremely low state of charge at about 4%, so this was designed to give me the fastest initial charge speed, and indeed it went to a maximum of 48 kilowatts. And I have to say that is probably better than I've ever achieved on a normal 50 kilowatt charger. And I was quite pleased to see that it actually maintained a speed of more than 40 kilowatts up to about 75% state of charge. And it remained above 30 kilowatts until about 80% state of charge. So in conclusion, I would say that even though I was using a 30 kilowatt Nissan Leaf, and even though the maximum power that that car could take was 50 kilowatts, I think it was still subtly faster using that 100 kilowatt charger than it was if I was just using a standard 50 kilowatt hour rapid charger. Is it worth the price difference? Well, using the 100 kilowatt CHADEMO charger is a little bit more expensive than using a BP Pulse 50 kilowatt. So it's debatable whether that small increase in speed is really worthwhile. And I guess you may also say, well, is it reasonable to be hogging a 100 kilowatt DC charger if you can only ever draw 50 kilowatts? I don't know. I'll leave you to discuss that in the comments below. So in conclusion, I was pretty impressed with these new BP Pulse Ultra chargers, and I think these will be a welcome new addition to the charging landscape in the country. It is brilliant to see BP Pulse embracing the new faster chargers, and I'm sure as more cars come out which could take this increased speed, this is going to greatly improve the charging experience. It appears that BP are currently in the process of adding these ultra chargers to many of their traditional BP forecourts, and I think this is a good move. These are trusted and traditional places where people are accustomed to going for their fuel, and I think that they're in good locations. They're going to be useful for people who don't have home charging at present, or for people doing long journeys. And so hopefully going forward on the forecourts, perhaps we're going to see a few more of these rapid ultra chargers, and perhaps a few less of the diesel and petrol pumps. And that brings me around nicely to the next thing I'd like to mention in this video. Now, the eagle-eyed among you may have noticed the slight change in scenery since the earlier part of this video. That's because I am now sitting in my brand new electric car. That's right, I have upgraded, and this is now the PlugSeeker's third EV. So here's a teaser of the outside view of this car, and I'm sure those in the know will be able to put two and two together and, looking at the interior, work out what my new EV is. If you can't, then there will be a new video coming out very shortly where I will be taking my old Nissan Leaf 30 kilowatt and I'll be picking up my new electric car and giving you my first impressions of it. So that should be coming soon in the channel. But that really concludes my review of the BP Pulse 150 kilowatt rapid charger. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to share it on Facebook, Twitter, or whatever social media you use. It really does help out my channel a lot, and I really do appreciate it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and do click on the notification bell to get new updates as soon as I upload them. Anyway, that's it from me today. I hope you did enjoy this episode. This is the PlugSeeker, signing out. Happy charging, everyone.